You are listening to Dream and Do, a podcast for big-hearted creatives, empaths, and sensitive souls who are ready to show up wholeheartedly in their businesses and their lives. My name is Nicola Ray Wickham, and I'll be helping you to be seen and heard and build brands that make a real, meaningful contribution to the world. Your whole self is welcome to this table, and you're invited to pull up a chair and join me for confidence pep talks, soulful insights, and practical tips on all things creativity, marketing, truth-telling, and story sharing, and powerful conversations with amazing, wholehearted women who are dreaming and doing in action and disrupting the status quo as they go. This is the stuff you're going to wish you knew years ago, but don't worry, we are doing this in community, you are not alone, and it's not too late. This is our time. Hey loves, and welcome to another episode of the podcast. In this episode, I am interviewing the wonderful Anna Cessay from Motherdom Magazine. Before I get into telling you more about Anna and what we talked about in this episode, I have to let you know the doors for Root and Rise Membership Collective are now open, and they will remain open until Monday the 30th of November. This is Root and Rise is more than a membership, right? It is a movement. It's a movement of like-minded, creative humans, big-hearted creatives, those deep thinkers and feelers who want to really create change, who have had some success with their brands and businesses, but want to do things differently in how they approach the next level of what success looks like for them. So we are rewriting narratives through our work and really creating a place to cultivate meaningful change and do marketing differently. Do it in a way that feels good, but still creates results that feel good. So the doors are open until Monday, the 30th of November. The link to all of the information is in the show notes of this episode. And I warn you, right, it's a long information sales page. And there's a reason for that, because I want you to know that it is the right thing that you're entering into. I want you to be reading it and nodding throughout it and being like, yeah, this is where I need to be. This is where I need to be. I've even got a song on the sales page that would be the theme tune for Root and Rise if Root and Rise had a theme tune. I mean, when have you ever seen a sales page that had a song, a link to a song on it? So if nothing else, head over there. Well, obviously head over there to read all about Root and Rise if what I've said has piqued your interest in any way. But head over there and definitely find out what that song is, and maybe put the volume up and have a good old dance to it. I would love if this is speaking to any part of you, for you to come and join this journey. Right, on with the episode. For this episode of the podcast, I spoke to Anna from Motherdom Magazine. Anna describes herself as a creative soul who tap danced and sang her way through her teens, threw herself into the world of theatre at university, and then went on to carve out a successful 10-year career in journalism and communications. Her own creative baby is Motherdom, which is a social enterprise and media platform dedicated to maternal mental health and well-being. This idea started as a business. It appeared in her head one night as she was sitting on the sofa in 2017, shortly after she'd had a mental health breakdown, or a spiritual awakening, as Brené Brown might call it. She followed her gut and went for it, and since then, Motherdom has been featured on BBC News. She's been named by Forbes as a female entrepreneur who is using her own experience of mental health to help others. And she's just been successful in raising her first round of investment. This conversation was really rich, and it was great to hear more about Anna's journey and also where that journey is taking her going forward. Anna and I worked together over the summer on a mini mastermind program that I'd done called Profitable Purpose. So it's really lovely to hear Anna sharing her story on the impact that it has made on her with all of this stuff that she's achieved with Motherdom and all of the things that she's going to go on and achieve as well. So my loves, the links to find Anna are all in the show notes. Definitely head over and check her out. And as always, come over to Instagram. Let us know what you think. Let's continue the conversation over there. And now I'm going to head off so you can enjoy the episode. Anna, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
It's exciting to have you here. I've wanted you on this podcast for a really long time, and then I just didn't have my arse in gear with having guests on. And then when we connected more recently, I was like, yeah, now's my chance.
Oh, thank you, Nicola. I'm so thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me.
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm doing well. Thank you. Managing like everyone is right now, taking each day at a time.
I know, right? I know. So tell us more about you. Actually, you know what I'm going to start with? And this is a question I got from my friend Nova Reed. I was on her podcast a few months ago, and she opened it with this question that completely I was like, really, Nova? And now I'm doing it with all my guests, which is, who are you aside from the roles and the responsibilities and the label?
I love it. I love that question. So I would say I'm a creative soul. I'm someone who, if I go back to my youth, I tap danced and sang my way through my teenage years. Spice Girls were my idols.
Yeah, me too.
I collected those. I don't know if you remember, they had those photos that they released, collectible photos. This is in the days pre-social media, pre-Instagram. But I used to have all of their photos in my drawer. I would do dances and assembly.
Which one did you want to be?
I think it's got to be Jerry. I think it's got to be Ginger Spice.
Really?
Yeah. So I used to love the Spice Girls. I then, when I went to uni, I really immersed myself in the world of theatre and producing plays and directing plays. And then as an adult, became a journalist. I know we're getting into the labels here, but yeah, I've been thinking a lot recently about how my creativeness has come through my entire life.
Yeah, wow. I didn't realize that you had this real, this seed of creativity, right? That I can hear coming through. Okay, so take us more to the labels and the roles and the responsibilities. So you became a journalist.
Yes. So I've been working as a journalist for, I think it's 10 years now. That sounds like a scary milestone. Makes me feel old. But yeah, I've worked, I trained as a broadcast journalist, and I worked at major broadcasters like BBC, Sky News, Avalon Television, and then I moved into the world of charity communications. And so I led a couple of communications teams in the charity sector, and I what was exciting about that time was I arrived in these charities and was the first comms person they'd had. So I was able to build teams from the ground up. In one of the charities I worked at, I led a whole rebrand, and, that was just the start for me of actually realizing I could build something myself. And so that kind of gave me the confidence to launch my own business, which is what I do now. So I run Motherdom, and I have been working on that for the past 3 years. And that is the UK's first media platform dedicated to maternal mental health and well-being. So that's what I do now. I can talk a little bit about the genesis of Motherdom and why it exists.
Yes, I would love to hear, and I know my listeners would love to hear how you went from this idea and how the idea even was conceived right through to actually, because having a media platform, and I know you've got a physical magazine as well, that's no small feat at all. Right?
Thank you.
No.
Thank you. So the idea, it came from a very personal experience. So some of your listeners might know this or they might not, but I went through my own mental health issues when I was pregnant with my second child. And I actually didn't know what was happening to me. I had no history of mental health issues. I already had a toddler, so I'd been pregnant before. The second time, sometimes you think, I know what I'm doing.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't have to read all the books. I don't have to do X, Y, Z. I did it my first.
Yeah, you don't have time either, do you? So
Exactly. You don't have time. So, life was sort of continuing. I guess about 6 months into the pregnancy is when I realized something was wrong. And at that point, I was kind of ignoring it. I was putting it to the back of my mind because I thought, well, number one, I've got a toddler who I'm looking after. Number two, I'm still working. Number three, we're renovating our house. And number four, my husband was working away. And I thought, there's all of that going on. And I'm pregnant. So, of course, I'm not feeling great. I'm feeling exhausted. I'm run down. But it was when all those things changed. And when I went on maternity leave, when my husband was home, when the house was done, and I thought, oh, I'm still feeling crap, so actually there is something wrong. And I would just wake up every morning and have like a sinking feeling and just, I lost some of my joie de vivre, my kind of energy for life. So I made a call to Pandas, who are this amazing, if you haven't heard of them, they're the amazing charity who offer a free helpline or email service if you don't want to talk on the phone. So if you're feeling low in pregnancy, you can call them. And I just spoke to them for 5 minutes, to this woman that I'd never met. But she was so kind. And she said, look, I've got a 7-year-old boys now. I had postnatal depression. Don't worry, you'll get through it. It gets better. Go to your doctor. Go to your GP. And I wasn't expecting her to say that, which sounds odd now, but I don't know what I was expecting. But I did what she said. I spoke to the GP. And all of that was very scary. And I said to the GP, look, I'm really worried. If I tell you what's in my head, that you're going to take my daughter away. And that was my biggest fear. And she said, look, don't worry, you've done the right thing. You've come to get help. We're going to get you supported. So I was incredibly lucky. Within about 2 weeks, I was referred to the local perinatal mental health team. And I received cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. So that was about... I was very near the end of my pregnancy, about 8.5 months pregnant. And so I had therapy a couple of sessions before I gave birth. And then I had continued it until my son was about 6 months old. But that was just life-changing for me, to realize that I could control my thoughts and that I don't actually have to be ruled by my mind, and that actually you can create the future you want, and you don't have to be overcome by, these unhelpful thinking patterns that I developed. And I'd never been taught that. That's something that looking after your mind and your mental health and your well-being was just not on the agenda.
That really resonates.
Yeah, when I was growing up, and I think that might be a generational thing as well, because I think, it just wasn't in the air, was it? It wasn't something that was discussed. It wasn't something that anyone, really the aim of the game was to get good grades, go to university, get a good job.
Yeah, exactly.
That was what was in my mind, was what life was about.
And where you wrap it back to the Spice Girls that you mentioned in the beginning, I don't know about you, but for me, it was almost like the Spice Girls, they changed our generation, right? And it was this image of these women that could have it all and you didn't have to be that traditional view of femininity that we'd been fed previously. And it was like, you can just go out there and have it all. But we never thought about how they felt or any of that went in with going out in this way. And it wasn't the way that they did it, but I think it was the impact that had on us as a generation in internalizing those messages. It was just like, you just go and do and be amazing and decide what you want and go for it. So it was a very empowering message, but it just didn't have the well-being part to it. It just wasn't part of, and we weren't then taught it by anyone because
exactly. You're so right. You're spot on. Yeah. I think that, as a generation of women, we did grow up thinking we could have it all. And I think probably that moment when I had my breakdown, I suddenly thought, oh, it's not that easy. So I got help, which was brilliant. But sort of halfway through my therapy, I started thinking, I was really lucky to get the therapy that I needed through the NHS. And it is a postcode lottery still when it comes to getting mental health support in pregnancy, which is such a shame. And I hope that changes soon. But I started thinking, I'm a journalist, I'm a communicator. I need to figure out a way that I can help other women and I can reach out to them. And how can I reach other women who are in the place I was and let them know they're not alone? So I thought, I'm going to create a media platform that is all about maternal mental health and well-being. So the idea kind of came to me one evening. I was sitting on the sofa with my husband. And it literally felt like it literally dropped into my head from nowhere. And I just went, I think I'm going to launch a magazine about maternal mental health. And he was like, all right, great.
Oh, that's lovely that he's so supportive.
Yeah, I mean, he's an actor, so
yeah.
he gets it. He's always been a massive cheerleader for me. So yeah, I just thought, okay, let's do it. And so from that point onwards, that was kind of summer 2017, I started working on it. And, now, yes, we've published 4 issues of the print magazine. We are launching a new website next year and a podcast, and I'm going to be offering coaching as well. I'll talk about that as well. I know we want to talk about that more. But yeah, it's kind of grown into a lovely community of women who want to support each other and talk about how to look after our mental health and well-being as parents.
Amazing. I love it. And when I got my first copy of it, it felt so different to everything else that was out there. It felt like a real nurturing, nourishing read, which I think that, especially in this digital age where we're all like Instagram caption and it's all so quick, that instant hit almost, it felt really lovely to be able to like create an occasion, sit down with a coffee and immerse myself in it.
Thank you. Oh, that means a lot, Nicola. Yeah, I mean, that's always been really important to me, that actually reading a magazine in itself is an act of self-care.
Yes.
Because you are choosing to take that time, as you say, with a coffee and dedicate some time to yourself.
What's the biggest lesson that you've learned in taking this idea from when you were sitting on the sofa and it kind of dropped into your head? Have you read Liz Gilbert's Big Magic?
I haven't, no.
Oh, you should totally read it. I think you'll really like it. But she talks about ideas being these entities that kind of float around us. So as you were describing that, it sounded exactly as she'd written about. But going from that place where the idea dropped into you to actually creating it, what was your biggest lesson in that?
Oh my gosh, what a good question.
I know it's a big...
the biggest lesson probably was that I need to plan, because I'm an Aquarius. I am a very good firefighter. So that's a natural trait of any journalist, actually, that, they react to whatever's directly in front of them, but they're not necessarily very good at long-term planning. So I was talking to someone about this yesterday, actually, that I think I'm quite egotistical as well. So I tend to rush into things and don't give it too much thought. So I didn't really have any fear about what was going to happen when I launched. But then, I went in, I kind of launched everything, and then all the vulnerability and the kind of the self-doubt and the imposter syndrome and stuff that every woman I'm sure can relate to, that all came afterwards for me. It didn't come before launching. It came afterwards, and I realized, okay, I actually need to have a really solid plan. So actually that's what I've done this year is we put the publication of the print magazine on hold, and I basically spent the entire year in my business plan, in Excel spreadsheets, talking to investors, really trying to make sure that the business is financially sustainable and that we have a really good financial footing. And that's a world I knew, to be quite honest with you, I knew nothing about. So I have learned a lot this year. So I would say the biggest lesson for me, I would have tried to plan better. But I'm glad I did. I am glad I did it the way I did it, because I kind of rushed in and because I rushed in, I have created a community. I have kind of got some momentum. I've got so much content now. So that's all really, really positive. And the one thing I loved, I remember sitting with my husband in a Chinese restaurant. This is obviously pre-lockdown. When was it? It was pre-launch, so probably the end of 2018. And I said to him, the best thing about this, the best thing about creating this thing is the women I've met and the conversations I've had, and discovering this amazing community of women who just want to lift each other up, you know, and I think because I wasn't on Instagram, I think if you are on Instagram, this might all sound like quite obvious, but I wasn't really into social media. I wasn't connected to that world. So, you know, when I went through my issues in pregnancy, I did feel completely alone. I wasn't completely alone, but that's how I felt. And I think the one thing I absolutely loved about building Motherdom was the community and the women that I met.
Yeah. And it's a whole kind of, as an adult, sometimes it's hard to create that network and community and make friends in that way, right? And then you get a community by stepping out and doing what you feel, what is on your heart to share. And that, yeah, I completely agree, is one of the best bits. And I have to say that your biggest lesson, I love the fact, I mean, I'm not really much of a planner either, totally relate to that, but it's so interesting, right? Because if you had done all the planning up front, you might not be here now, because you might have planned your way out of it, or that imposter syndrome and self-doubt would have kicked in. It kicks in so early for so many people, but it stops them from getting started.
Yes, exactly. And I think, I am actually grateful that I did it in a topsy-turvy way, because you're right. I think, if I planned too much, I would have probably not launched it. And that would have been a massive regret. So I'm happy that I did it that way around. But yeah, it's been a massive learning curve. Obviously, launching a business is a huge roller coaster.
It is. And it's so funny because some people come to me at the beginning of their journey and I can see in them that they want to have it all sorted and they're feeling this pressure that they need to know everything. And I'm just looking at them like, this is just the start of the journey. Right? Like,
I know.
As far as I'm concerned, the journey doesn't end until we hang up our boots and decide that we don't want to do it anymore, or it's our last days. Like, it's until then we're on this. All of us are on this journey. And
and you learn something every day.
Literally, yeah.
You're so right.
So moving on to today. So we reconnected because you did one of my programs, which was Profitable Purpose. How did you find it?
It was amazing. It was literally amazing. Like, I came to you because I was having a bit of an existential crisis over the summer. And I think, like a lot of people, suffering with the effects of the pandemic and, trying to juggle homeschooling and everything else that this time has come with. I was feeling quite lost, if I'm honest with you. I was feeling like, am I on the right path? Should I be doing what I'm doing? I was having some crazy thoughts like, I think I want to be a vegan baker. I think maybe I want to go and work for the UN. I was literally, my mind was going absolutely crazy. And I think I'm at the moment, I'm reading Finding Your North Star by Martha Beck, and which I'm loving. And she talks about this, actually. She says, that's a natural, when you're in a kind of a rebirth stage of your life, that's a really natural thing to happen, that your brain will kind of look at all many, many different options and you'll feel discombobulated. And that's how I was feeling. So I came to you thinking, I really I want to refocus on what my purpose is. I want to make it profitable. So I loved the way you coined profitable purpose in your course. And I actually saw a video you did on Instagram. I don't really watch videos on Instagram. I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with Instagram. But I watched a video that you did on purpose and how you spoke about purpose. It's not about finding your life purpose. It's not about putting pressure on yourself to find the purpose. Your purpose can have different seasons and it can change. And it's just about finding what it is for you right now that sits well with you. And I just absolutely loved how you phrased it. And so I thought, okay, great. And you spoke about the course and I was like, I think I need to do this course. And so I came on it and it literally pulled me out of the mire that I was in and made me refocus. And I have to say, I haven't felt like now the culmination of all the work I've done this year on my planning and business plan and everything. But most importantly, the work we did in Profitable Purpose has just made me feel in such alignment with my values and what's important to me in life, that I'm just super excited for what's ahead.
Oh, Anna, that makes me so happy to hear that. And just to reference how you were feeling beforehand, again, is so normal, isn't it? Especially when you're a creative, because you are a resourceful, intelligent, talented woman. You could put your hand to anything. And I think that when we're like that, it's like, yeah, you could kind of make a go of being the vegan baker, right? Like, I know.
It's because I was like, in lockdown, like many people, I was baking a lot. I don't eat dairy. So I was like, I'm going to try out some vegan dishes. And I just got obsessed with like making vegan chocolate brownies and vegan butter and, anyway.
And that's the thing, and so the ideas just keep on coming. And so it's about then being able to be discerning, have that period, because I think that that's a period of creativity, even if at that time it feels discombobulating and a bit much as their ideas are flying around. But it's a process to work through to be able to almost shortlist down. And what I love about the process as well is that it's for any given time. And especially when we're busy, I try not to say the word busy, vibrant, things are vibrant, and we're negotiating and navigating a global pandemic and children and all that kind of thing. It's okay for us to look at what's right for this season.
Yes.
And I think that, as every woman that I've said that to, it's like, okay, I can breathe.
Exactly. It's just, to hear you say that was just so reassuring, because I think sometimes the language around self-help and self-development can actually get quite toxic. And I know it doesn't mean to, but you suddenly feel a pressure. Oh God, I have to figure out my life purpose right now.
Yes, exactly.
So it was so reassuring to hear you say that.
So what transpired for you from it? Well, I know, but I just want you to share.
So I figured out, that I wanted to try and encompass all the different elements of my life in my current business. So I now have a renewed kind of sense of direction for Motherdom. Like I said, we're going to be launching a new website next year and a podcast. And I also, the biggest thing actually, I shouldn't say the biggest, but one of the big things is that I decided to train as a coach, because I was so inspired by our process and working with you. And I could see the impact it was having on me. And I could see it was the impact it was having on the other women in the course, because it was a group course. And so I'm literally... I'm doing an 8-week coaching course, and we've just finished week 6. I guess by the time this comes out, I will have finished. I'm just adoring the process of learning how to become a coach. And I know I've still got a lot to learn. And with coaching, I'm very much I am at the very beginning of my journey. But I think what was missing for me from Motherdom was that ability to work one-to-one with women. And I've always loved, that kind of level of connection. I know the values exercise we did within the Profitable Purpose course, I realized actually that connection is one of my highest values. And for me, I want to make a difference. I want to make an impact. I know I hope I'm making an impact in some small way with the media platform.
I think a big impact.
Thank you. But I think I want to feel it in a different way. I want to talk to women one-to-one and take them through their journey and really understand what they're going through and how we can help them reach the goals that they've identified. Mm-hmm. So for me, that's super duper exciting. And that has kind of unleashed a really renewed sense of energy for me.
Yes. And you know what? I think that's a really important point as well, is that what I did in that program was give you guys permission to get to know yourselves more and then follow that. And it's so, we're blessed with the internet that gives us these tools, that gives us the ability to do all manner of different things. And then there's an opportunity for us to create all different things. And then for me, there's a layer on top of that. It's like, okay, but what do you really love? What do you enjoy? How do you want to communicate? What are your values? Kind of what lights you up? And for you, that connection piece, to marry that up with this amazing brand that you've created is like, it's the sweet spot.
I really feel it is the sweet spot. I think, I'm just so pumped. I'm just in the process of figuring out my niche as we speak. But what I think I want to start offering is creative coaching for women. So I want to work with women who have either a business idea or calling it a creative baby idea. So you might want to launch a podcast, or you might want to launch a website, or you might want to launch your own fashion line, or you might want to launch a magazine. Mm-hmm. But I want to connect with women like that and help them on that creative journey, and try and figure out, how to help them get to where they want to get to.
And you're all of your wealth of your experience, but your journalism and communications background is going to be spot on for that. So I want to ask you, because I attract quite a few people, because I'm from a communications marketing background as well. I attract quite a few people who've had that experience, and I always say that we're a special breed. Yeah, and we're a special breed because we have worked in big companies with big shiny signs and been really good in those roles. I think some people enter entrepreneurship and they're like, I was a rubbish employee, or I could never work for someone. But many of us were really good employees.
Yeah.
And in marketing communications, our job is to represent whichever brand we are sitting with. And often many of us have been in experience where we're writing for, representing brands that we don't fully believe in, but we've had to do it because it's the corporate world. And so it strips away part of us knowing ourselves. So that's a journey to go through. Mm-hmm. The amount of women that I'm like, come from a marketing comms background, I'm like, it's okay that you feel this way because you've been trained to think in a completely different way. And then also when it comes to them having to do the job on themselves, they're like, why can't I market myself when I could market with these £1 million budgets? So can you just speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. That really resonates. I mean, I worked at the BBC, right? So you're not allowed to have a personality when you're in that institution, and there are very good reasons for that. But I think coming into running my own business, and of course for me, I was at the center, and I am at the center of my business. I'm the reason that Motherdom exists. So I think that, I had to accept a huge, I was going to say burden, but actually I don't think that's the right word. I think it was a big shift. It was a big transition for me to strip away, to stop being Anna the journalist who tells other people's stories, and actually to be Anna the journalist, and I'm telling my story, and I, when I wrote down the article, when I kind of wrote down my story and shared it, I actually first shared it with my husband and my parents. Everyone cried. Everyone cried, and of course I wanted to share it with them first because I didn't want to make it public until they'd seen it. But sharing it with the world, the reactions I got were just incredible. And what I really learned there was when you put yourself at the center of what you're doing, it can only be authentic, and it really can resonate with people, and they really appreciate you being honest and open and vulnerable. And I think at that point I also realized, there's no point. And I'm also a huge perfectionist, so I really struggle with. And again, I like working in institutions like the BBC. You want to have that. You have incredibly high standards for your work. So I think I also started to let go of some of that. I still have very high standards in lots of things, but when it comes to talking about my own experience, I'm now able to really be open and really be honest and just sort of tell it warts and all. And I'm actually not afraid of the consequences of that because it's just me,
Yeah. I think there's such a process, like starting your own thing is a learning curve anyway. And then when you come from that communications background, there's so much unlearning to be done. So even when you're talking about perfectionism, which is something practically I know everyone listening to this identifies with, and then those of you that have got that marketing communications background as well, that was part of our job, is to be perfect. And the consequences of not are so huge, never mind us tending to be the good girls who... anything less than perfect doesn't really wash. So that's kind of layered on already. It becomes a massive process of unlearning that you get to decide what perfect, I say in air quotes, looks like.
Yeah. Yeah, you're so right. And I still have, I still have issues around, like, I laughed when you said the good girl thing, because I am a little bit obsessed with following the rules. And I still have a lot of work to do on that, on trying to, I've just recently, as part of my coaching course, I've written down 10 affirmations that I'm trying to read myself every day, to try and give myself permission, basically. That I actually don't need to ask anyone else for permission or validation, or to be told that I'm a good girl, or to be told that I'm doing a good job. Of course, everyone loves that. Everyone loves hearing that. But actually, I still have to work to do on kind of accepting that and empowering myself to just know that I am enough on my own.
Yeah. And that's a practice. It's a everyday, weekly practice. Definitely. Something that has helped me and some of my clients is to start to rewrite the rules. The rules that determine what is the good girl and not, what's good and not.
Right.
And that's why I love Imperfection for the Win so much, because that is rewriting the rule. I'm no longer aiming for perfection. I'm aiming for imperfection, which creates freedom. And if the rule is that we think we get really granular, like the rule is that I'm allowed to put up a post that might have typos and spelling mistakes.
That's like my worst nightmare. That's literally my worst nightmare.
So it might be like, I've done it quickly in the car on the school one, which is what I did this morning. But the rule is that it's allowed to possibly have typos and spelling mistakes, but I got it out quickly, and that's okay.
Yeah. I remember on our course, on the Profitable Purpose course, I was talking about this, and I remember you said something, it's just really stuck with me. I think about it quite often, actually. I was talking about my kind of fear of getting in trouble, fear of getting it wrong. And you said, so what? You were just like, so what? What's the worst that can happen? And that has really stayed with me. And so I try if I do feel my anxiety rising up and I start thinking about that, I remember what you said, and I thought, yeah, Nicola would say, so what?
So what? Yeah. Because in the corporate world, so what might have meant it had bigger consequences, right? In this, the so what is love it. Okay, so thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your story. And by the time this comes out, I will link to everything so people can come and find you. And how do people find Motherdom? So
Motherdom is on Instagram. We are Motherdom_mag. And you can look at our website, but it's going to be relaunched in March. But the website is motherdom.co.uk. Hopefully by the time this comes out, I won't give you my website address because I'm scared that it might not be live, but hopefully it will be live. And so you can link to it in your socials and stuff. But yeah, if not, check out Motherdom, and that would be amazing.
Yeah. Okay, my love. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nicola. Thanks for having me.
Hey love, and thank you for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, you know what I'm going to ask you to do. Please head over to Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star review and a rating. It helps this important conversation and message get to more people. And also please feel free to share it with anyone who you think needs to hear it. I would love to continue the conversation over on Instagram. I'm there at A Life More Inspired. And I will see you on the next episode.